A warm welcome back to our history show, and it's an absolute pleasure once again to welcome local historian Ken Pearce to the show. Hi, Ken.
Hello there.
And today we are chatting about Lord Hillingdon. Let's find out about Lord Hillingdon.
Thank you. Yes. In 1825, a man named Charles Mills purchased a house at the northern end of Vine Lane in Hillingdon. There were three quite large houses there, actually, and the district was known at that time as Little Hillingdon. And the village, on the other end of Vine Lane, grouped around the parish church, was then known as Great Hillingdon. Charles Mills's wife, Emily, was the daughter of a banker called Richard Cox, and he lived in one of the other houses on the other side of the road in Vine Lane. Charles Mills had amazing wealth at this time. He was a partner in the banking firm of Glyn Mills and Company in the City of London. He'd inherited £10,000 from his father and £5,000 from his uncle, enormous sums of money at that time. In fact, the family even owned a villa in Rome at this period. In 1847, the owner of the neighbouring house died, and Mills was able to purchase that property as well, and was determined to redevelop the whole site. He employed a London architect, Philip Charles Hardwick, to design a new home, replacing the two other houses which were demolished. Work began on the new mansion about 1850. And interestingly, in the 1851 census then, Charles and Emily Mills and their 7 children were staying with their in-laws on the other side of the road. It seems likely that the new mansion, named Hillingdon Court, was occupied by 1855, and the grounds had also been landscaped. In 1861, Charles and Emily were living in their new home, together with 10 family members and 33 servants. The latter included a governess, butler, cook, ladies' maids, a coachman, 2 grooms and 2 stablemen. Other staff, such as gardeners, lived in smaller houses nearby. In 1868, Charles Mills was made a baronet, so Hillingdon Court now became the home of Sir Charles and Lady Mills. And when Charles died 4 years later, he left his estate valued at £600,000. The Hillingdon Court estate then passed to his only son, the new Sir Charles Mills. He had married Lady Louise Lascelles, daughter of the Earl of Harwood, and they had 6 sons and a daughter. The new Sir Charles Mills was now the senior partner in the bank, now called Glyn Mills, Curry & Co., but he seems to have been much more interested in politics. For in 1868 he was elected MP for West Kent, a seat which he held for 17 years. On his retirement in 1885, he was created first Baron Hillingdon. So Hillingdon Court now became the home of Lord and Lady Hillingdon. They also had a home in central London. Lord Hillingdon set about enlarging his estate in this district. He bought a whole series of farms and other land when it became available, his primary purpose being to increase his shooting grounds. In 1891, our local paper reported, Lord Hillingdon went on a shoot on the Hillingdon Court estate, and his party bagged 770 birds, 507 of which were pheasants. The first Lord Hillingdon died in 1898, aged 67, leaving estate valued at £1.5 million. He was succeeded by his only son, Charles William Mills, who now became the second Lord Hillingdon. He was married to Alice, daughter of Baron Suffield, and they had 3 sons, one of whom died in infancy. The new Lord Hillingdon remained a partner in the bank, Glyn Mills and Curry, and had also become MP for Sevenoaks in Kent. Like his father, he continued to buy up more and more local property. In November 1909, a shoot on the estate yielded 1,358 pheasants. At this period, the cut flower nursery of Lowinshaw, to the south of Uxbridge, was flourishing. Their main crops were roses and chrysanthemums. In 1909, their chief rose grower, Edwin Alford, created a brand new rose, a peach-coloured rambler, which he named Lady Hillingdon. It won the gold medal of the National Rose Society that year. It is still available today as a climber or in bush form. In 1910, Lord Hillingdon's eldest son, the Honourable Charles Mills, was elected MP for Uxbridge, and at the age of 22, he was the youngest MP in the House of Commons. By 1914, though, it was clear that the day of the small private banks was over. There had once been 250 banks in this country, including Uxbridge Bank, but now there were 12, and Glyn Mills and Curry was eventually absorbed into the Royal Bank of Scotland. In 1915, the Honourable Charles Mills, our local MP, felt that as a young man, he, like others of his age, should enlist in the forces. And so, although remaining MP, he obtained a commission in the Scots Guards, but a few weeks later was killed in action in France. His brother, the Honourable Arthur Mills, was elected unopposed to take his place at Westminster. Throughout the 1914-18 war, the second Lord Hillingdon was in very poor health, and in April 1919 he died, aged 64, leaving his estate valued at £1 million. And his son Arthur now became the third Lord Hillingdon. But now the family decided to sell all their Hillingdon estate, amounting to 3,185 acres. The sale took place in London in May 1920, exactly 100 years ago this month. The consequences for this district were considerable, but mostly in the area we now know as North Hillingdon. In 1920, when that sale took place, Long Lane was a narrow country lane with farms and fields on either side, Oak Farm, Ryefield Farm, and so on. 15 years later, Long Lane was a major highway with houses, shops, schools, and churches. Hillingdon Station had opened in 1923 to cope with the increasing population, who could now, of course, live in Hillingdon and work in London. It was a remarkable transformation, and that was at a time, bear in mind, when other parts of the country were enduring unemployment and hardship. Lord Hillingdon's house, Hillingdon Court, was sold to the Roman Catholic Order of the Sacred Heart of Mary and became a care home for elderly people. After World War II, the order converted it into a convent school for girls, for day and boarding pupils. That closed suddenly in 1977, presumably financial problems, and in 1978 the site was purchased by American Community Schools. So Hillingdon Court, Lord Hillingdon's former home, is now a co-educational international school for pupils aged 4 to 18. The original Hillingdon Court is a listed building, but extensions have been sympathetically added. Lord Hillingdon's back garden, if I may call it that, has become Hillingdon Court Park Recreation Ground. And finally, what of the family? Well, after they left Hillingdon, they settled mostly in Kent. The fifth Lord Hillingdon died in 1982, leaving 2 daughters, and the title died with him. And that's the story of Lord Hillingdon.
Wow, some amazing shoots going on there. Lots of pheasants involved.
Yeah. I mistakenly, on one occasion, when giving this talk, called them peasants. However, we recovered.
1,358 pheasants on one shoot.
Yeah.
Gosh. Well, thanks,
Think
Ken.
of that walking down Long Lane today.
Yes. So somewhere, how do we resurrect this title? I think we should probably put you up for the title of Lord Hillingdon, maybe. A local.
No, I'm not sure. I don't fit the bill.